Welcome to the 10th season of What's Eating Harlem. I'm your host, Tabitha C. Williams. Our show pays homage to the trailblazers of yesterday. We recognize the entrepreneurs who continue to be a mainstay in our community and introduce you to dreamers who are waiting to make their mark in Harlem. There's so much to see. Let's get started. Jamie Roberts and Nikki Sunshine set out with a bold vision to create a comedy club celebrating people of color. Today, their mission is a resounding success, bringing laughter and culture to Harlem. Musa Jackson was one of America's first international top black male models. Now, he is an ambassador, Harlem's ambassador. All of that and more.
This program was made possible by the Harlem Community Development Corporation and by the West Harlem Development Corporation. Solutions through collaboration. Also by the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce.
Jamie Roberts and Nikki Sunshine are more than just a married couple. They're a dynamic duo of laughter and love. Together, they own and operate the only Black-owned comedy club in Manhattan, New York. It's a pleasure to be sitting here with both of you at your comedy spot, Comedy in Harlem. How did you bring your vision into reality? Because it's the only Black-owned comedy place in Manhattan.
Yeah, it was godsend, actually. We worked hard as comedians for over 20 years. We needed a space for us to perform, Black and brown people to perform on a nightly basis, and it kind of just fell in our lap. You know, it's something I always wanted to do. I don't know if she wanted to do it, but I always wanted to be an owner, give people opportunities to grow and just develop as comedians. So it was a great opportunity for us.
Yeah, so like Jamie was saying, it was something that kind of happened organically. He was producing shows at the National Black Theater, and then the National Black Theater shut down, and so we were looking for a space to kind of keep the vibe going. People really enjoyed those shows, and it was a different vibe from any of the shows that he produced downtown, because he was producing a show at another club for years, but the theater show and being uptown, it was just a different vibe. So we wanted to keep the vibe going, and organically, like just by chance, we found a space on the east side in Harlem, and that's really where it all began. And we were intentional that this space would be for us, that, you know, built in our mission statement, we are unapologetically Black, unapologetically amplifying Black, brown voices, marginalized voices, women voices. The comedy show Ladies Night, which is a night for all women comics. That's the lineup. That was one of our first house shows that was successful. One of the most successful monthly shows that we do. So, I mean, it just kind of grew from there. And that
also Wepa Comedy.
Wepa Comedy, that was also giving Latin comics a home. Not just, you know, a one-off show, but, you know, every month, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're building, and getting some of the funniest unknown Latin comics a chance to shine. And, you know, Chichi Salazar, he just passed away, legendary comedian, actor. He was prominently featured in our Wepa series, and we're just happy to be part of building something and making history with our folks in our community.
Jamie and Nikki aren't just about punchlines. They're serious about their craft and their business. After opening their first comedy club on the east side of Harlem, they recently relocated to the historic Sugar Hill neighborhood, where their club continues to thrive.
There's a lot of cultural complexities in Harlem
Correct.
that don't come to mind when someone thinks of comedy. It's just kind of make me laugh and that's the end of it. But when dealing with different cultures, comedy uptown greatly, vastly differs from comedy downtown.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Can you speak to that, please?
It's our people. It's our people, you know, and to be frank, like, we make the culture. We set the tone. Uptown comedy, you remember the TV shows. You know about the Apollo. You know about all these legendary things that comedy actually came out of. So to do it uptown here in New York City, it's like, it's the perfect place to do it, to showcase us.
And is it also different in terms of the audience?
Yes.
Okay,
It is our people.
let's talk about
Yeah,
it.
It is our people attending.
So people ask us often, like, what's the difference between like mainstream comedy and black comedy? And I liken it to, you know, different spiritual experiences. When you go to a Catholic church, they do it a certain way. When you go to a black church in a black environment, there's a certain way that our folk, the way we express ourselves. Also, comedy comes from pain. So, you know, when we share our experiences are different and unique to us. And so I think that the audience really relates to the comedians and what we're offering differently than what they have downtown. And also, it's the environment. Like, we have live music here. We have a DJ. Right when you're coming in the doors on a Friday or Saturday night, it's like, I'm stepping into something. Like, I'm stepping out, and just the synergy when everybody comes together, like, people before the show, they get up and dance, like, and people cheer them on, like, okay, and it's such a wonderful feeling, especially coming out of the pandemic when we were separated. New Yorkers like to be together, like to party together, like to laugh together, and so that's kind of the community that we've created, and it's really important to a lot of people because they want that connection. They seek that kind of. We have regulars. They come faithfully every week because there's something that they're enjoying that they don't get anywhere else.
I think it's that, and I think it's also your location and the fact that you're pretty centralized, whether someone's taking a bus or a train or a taxi, Uber, whatever their mode of transportation is, they can make it to your location and still feel that they're involved in their community.
Yeah.
It's not a major trek.
That's right. We're in Sugar Hill, baby.
Yeah, we're in Sugar Hill, and we were in East Harlem, and that's where we got our start. And shout out to Union Settlement and all of the connections that we made on the East Side. Having moved to Sugar Hill, it's just been a game changer because of the location, because the train is right outside, because we're in a community that historically has serviced Black and brown people with jazz, St. Nick's Pub. So this corridor, it's kind of like we're inching back, getting back to what it was, which was a prominent arts and culture scene. And so right when we came, even before we opened our doors, Jamie would be in here just doing different things in the space, construction things, before we even opened, and people were just like, oh, what is this? You guys are here? Oh man, this is so cool. Oh, we're so excited. So there was already a buzz in the community before we even opened our doors. And when we opened our doors, people were just like overwhelmingly happy that it was an establishment that reflected them. And
Just say how we want to say it. It was overly happy. It was a black-owned establishment
Okay.
that was coming in here.
Black music, black this, black that. But since we moved to this location, we've been able to do more shows. On the East Side, we were doing shows like 2-3 times a week. Now we're doing shows 6 to 7 times a week, all different types of. We do karaoke, we have open mic nights, we do comedy shows, we do live music. So it's just so much more that we can do now that we're centrally located in Harlem.
Now, diving a little bit deeper into the business aspect of things, how does the dynamic work with you two being a married couple? Let's be real.
Let's be real. The business doesn't stop. So there's no more pillow talk. It's about bookkeeping. It's about supplies. It's a 24-hour day business.
Yeah.
But the fact that we both are comedians and we understand the business, it makes it a lot easier to communicate. Now, the communication can be rough at times, depending on how much someone had to drink. But
you.
But it's rewarding. It is rewarding.
Their mission goes beyond comedy. They're passionate about creating opportunities for up-and-coming comedians from marginalized communities and are actively involved in education initiatives across the city.
There's an educational component that we're working on. Not going to speak too much on it, but
you could tell me.
Well,
It's just us.
Well, I've been working with the city, and what a lot of New Yorkers don't know is that education is the largest line item in our city budget. City budget is $112 billion. The biggest line item is education, and you wouldn't think so. And so I think that there is a place for comedy in Harlem to fill in the gaps, whether it be, hey, let's practice public speaking. Hey, let's get in the vocal booth and practice our diction. Or do you know about careers in voiceover work? Do you know how to host an event? Do you know how to stand flat-footed, look somebody in the eyes and say, hi, my name is Nikki, and I enjoy communications, and be able to, be confident. And that is really a life skill. What we're doing, everybody's not going to be a stand-up comedian, but they're bits and pieces of what we do that is valuable as a life skill, as a work skill, as a professional skill. And I think that, there's some training that can be done here. We've done hosting classes, we've done acting classes, and we really want to build on that to possibly extending our space as really an institute for education and really as a resource to young people, to anybody that's maybe looking for a career in public speaking, communications, all of that. I think that there's something to be said about doing that in our community. And people have told us, like, yeah, I've been to classes downtown, but I really feel comfortable and I really connected with this coach or this professor because they look like me. I don't feel that I'm being judged. I just feel comfortable. And that's when you can shine, when you feel comfortable. And that's what we're about. That's the legacy that we want to build on.
Through their love for each other and their shared passion for comedy, Jamie and Nikki have built something truly special, bringing joy, inspiration, and inclusivity to Harlem and beyond.
You don't want somebody else bigging up your spouse or making your spouse feel better than you do. No. Baby, you are so fine.
You gotta be.
You are just so excellent. You are number one.
Look how fine
you are the best. And then you can give them nicknames like Pee-wee.
Oh yeah.
Pops.
Pops, yeah, that's my niece.
You my baby.
Oh, you
my
baby.
poopy doopy. Add some baby talk in it. You mama's baby.
You mama's baby.
Cookie cocky. You mama's baby. Cookie cocky. I love you. Yes, I do.
Cookie cocky, cookie cocky,
You my poopy doopy.
You my
baby.
Does mama need her pamper change? I'm sorry.
Let's stay connected. Visit our website, www.what'seatingharlem.com, and follow us on our social media pages on Instagram and Facebook at What's Eating Harlem. Musa Jackson, known to many as the Harlem Ambassador, and in the fashion world by his birth name, Stacey Jackson, is a true Renaissance man, a trailblazer of many firsts. His very name is fitting. Musa, meaning muse in Greek, and a muse he was, making history as the first international Black model to emerge from Harlem. His journey reads like a masterfully crafted autobiography, each chapter seemingly preordained. Jackson has graced the pages of Vogue in the US, France, Italy, and Spain, along with other publications like Mademoiselle, GQ, Interview, Rolling Stone, 17, and more. In the 1980s, he became the Gap's first black male model in a groundbreaking national campaign. With screenwriting credits, over 40 commercials, and an enduring presence in the fashion world for more than 2 decades, Jackson continues to define style and influence. Musa's family support has lifted him up throughout all of these unique experiences. And I'm already all in. I want to catch everybody up.
Okay.
So let's start from the top.
Okay.
Where exactly are you from?
I was born 120th Street in Pleasant, so East Harlem. And my so I grew up in a very big extended family. So there were cousins and relatives up on 149th Street in Bradhurst, on 128th Street in Lenox, on 121st and 7th. My mother, when she arrived, it was 117th in Morningside. We have Esplanade Gardens, if you know where that's at. And then East Harlem for me, 109th and Lexington Avenue. Grew up primarily in the projects of New York, or NYCHA as they say.
He had many such experiences with Andy Warhol, Jean-Michel Basquiat, James Earl Jones, and Diane Carroll. So you got to see all different aspects of Harlem.
I certainly did.
Which means you also ran into all different types of people throughout Harlem.
Yes.
And how did that shape your sense of the world as you continue to grow?
I had a very strong African-American base. So I met what I would consider today almost superheroes in plain clothes.
Let's name them.
James Baldwin, Diane Carroll I encountered in Harlem. James Earl Jones I encountered in Harlem.
How did these encounters take place? What was going on?
So in the case of Diane Carroll and James Earl Jones, my best friend that I grew up with was in the iconic film Claudine, and I was on the set as a child. So I got to meet, as they were filming what is now one of the most iconic films in history, Claudine, that would earn Diane Carroll an Oscar nomination for Best Actress in the lead role. I got to see it filmed with my best friend Eric Jones, who played Francis in the movie.
So as you said, growing up in NYCHA, that's not something that you see every day. That exposure had to change what you thought was possible beyond the 4 walls in which you dwelled, the community that you had known, the blocks that you had walked to see from stars and television.
Right.
How did that begin to shape your thinking?
I mean, it felt to me like that was a part of my life. Like you had real life, which was in the playground with a lot of aunties and uncles, but then you had moments like I mentioned, the Claudine screening, and then also going to historic events like the Harlem Cultural Festival as a child. So we got to see a lot of culture up front. We got to see some amazing people perform just for us. I think you can only imagine what it was like for a 4-year-old, 5-year-old to see Nina Simone, to see Gladys Knight, to see Stevie Wonder, to see David Russell, to see Musa Jackson, to see B.B. King, to see Sly Family Stone. It's going to affect you in a way that you know that they're in your backyard, and yet you see them on TV. So then the world becomes smaller, and you able to now know that you can go out into the world with that kind of energy.
And honoring them, you find yourself becoming a model. You find yourself delving and growing deeper in the entertainment industry in various roles. Tell me those things.
Wow. So you just mentioned modeling. I think even being a model, I don't believe anything is happenstance or just by coincidence. I think that when I entered the industry in 1983, I was at a nightclub opening area, and there were many famous people. You're going to hear it here. I went with Keith Haring, Basquiat, and Andy Warhol. And I was there with a new singer called Madonna and Grace Jones. And then there was me.
Wait.
It was
You went with them. So
I
how
went-
did you meet these people? What were you already doing?
I was in the downtown Soho scene. I was the black kid from Harlem, one of the only black kids from Harlem that was in that world, because that world was so different from Harlem. It was away from Harlem. A lot of people didn't leave their hoods.
One would think that it was different and then elite. So
I went to private school. So for me, having went to private school, it wasn't unfamiliar to me to be around a lot of people that weren't black. Most of the time they were Jewish, they were white, they were other than black. Most of the models in those days were older. And I was this young kid. But at the same time that I entered the industry, something happened, and it was a youth generation. So you had on the white scene, the Brat Pack. And then on the black scene, it was a Cosby Show. But what were they doing in fashion? So they needed sort of the black version of those two energies. I enter. Someone who would look good in polo, in Ralph Lauren as a young teenage type man. And I was discovered at Area by one of the editors of GQ magazine. So I didn't start at the bottom. I started directly at the top.
I was a little kid. I remember being with my family, walking around the park, and as far as I could see, it was just black people.
He also stars in Questlove's award-winning documentary, Summer of Soul, chronicling Harlem's greatest free outdoor concert in 1969. The film won the Sundance Grand Jury and Audience Awards, later premiering on Hulu to critical acclaim. Now as CEO and editor-in-chief of Ambassador Digital Magazine, Jackson continues to amplify culture, curating one of the fastest-growing digital platforms. Through YouTube and Facebook Live, he showcases a diverse and powerful lineup of cultural influencers.
Right now, I'm so excited. I have Ambassador Digital Magazine, and that was something that I'd always wanted to do. I worked in the magazine, obviously in front of the camera, but I also work, but most people know, I work behind the camera. So I produce fashion shows for New York Fashion Week. I also produce photo shoots for different publications. And I knew that I had a brand, or a burgeoning brand, because I was being called the Harlem Ambassador by many different people from all around, everywhere. They always say, he's the Harlem Ambassador, he's the Harlem Ambassador. And I'm gonna give another shout out. Freddie Jackson, the iconic singer, said to me one day, he said, Musa, if you don't wear them slippers, and step into them slippers, someone who doesn't look like us will. And when
have a whole face shame.
a whole face shame, I said, because talking about gentrification, they're gonna take that and run with it. And the minute I heard that, I said,
Not my Harlem.
I said, not my Harlem. And I stepped into those shoes, and they have taken me places. And I knew when I did this magazine called Ambassador, I said, well, who are the other ambassadors of the world? And I said, because everybody's an ambassador someplace. And I had a huge Rolodex. I started Ambassador Magazine in May of 2020 in the heart of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And it took off because I had a captive audience. It can't go nowhere. It was digital. So I started this magazine, and I created a safe environment, meaning we masked, we tested the whole thing, and we would shoot. And I was able to work with wonderful Black creatives and Latino creatives, people of color, to make sure that behind the scenes and in front of the camera, we were represented. And it gave them a space to be creative, and it took off. And we've now at, I think, the 84th issue, 83rd issue just came out with the beautiful Deborah Cox, the legendary Deborah Cox. And we've had incredible people on our cover, like the late, great Michael K. Williams, which I'm always happy to say. He was one who called me a year in. He said, I have to be on your cover. The top of his game, A-list, and saw what we were doing and graced our cover. We were his last cover as well. And so, as well as the great Ronald White, the first man, African-American male on the cover of GQ magazine, who was my mentor for 40 years, also graced our cover at age 80 right before he passed away. So we were actually his last cover as well. And I just love the fact that this magazine, through social media, through Instagram and Facebook, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook and on our website, ambassadordigitalmag.com, that we're creating a safe space, a platform for us to shine with incredible stories that sometimes are unheard of. So I always believe God has a bigger plan for you than you have for yourself.
Bigger than you could
Can you ever
imagine,
imagine?
ask or dream.
I'm a model. I came back into the business at over 50 years old and I did Banana Republic. I have a Timberland campaign coming out, Ulta Beauty campaign, Harper's Bazaar, De Beers. I did all these things, and honest to God, it was because, I wasn't thinking about it. I didn't ask to it. I didn't go into no agency. They came to me. They said, you have a great face. We love the salt and pepper. You're definitely so commercial. And we feel like men over 50 will relate to you. And we know we're going to, and I was like, I got things going on in my life. I've done that already. I did that.
And now you're back in print.
And then I'm back in print. And if that dries up tomorrow.
You did it.
I did it.
That's all we have for now. Tune in next week. See you uptown.